this video because you want to learn a little bit more about how expanding your awareness can facilitate personal development? Great, you're in the right place, and we're going to jump into that topic in just a moment. But first, hello, my name is Michael Dewan-Herrick. I'm the creator of the online store called Bazaar, for which you can find a link in the description below. Please come pay me a visit and check it out. It's not random that I named my store Bazaar, because I believe that the more we can pay attention to ourselves and the world around us, the more we become aware of. The more we become aware of, the bigger our world becomes, the more options we have for how we're going to be in it. And this, then, is the foundation, really, for self-development. There is the idea that we cannot become aware of awareness because it's like the eye seeing the eye. I don't know if that's true, but what I hope to do in this video is hold up a mirror so that you can see some aspects of your own awareness, and that would be useful in developing it further. Before we get into an exploration of awareness, I want to provide a simple definition for awareness and make a few comments. By awareness, I mean simply noticing. If we're aware of something, we notice it. This is not the same as evaluating and deciding and acting. Those are not awareness. Awareness is just noticing. There are many things that we're ignorant of and we don't notice. And most of those things probably just because we haven't noticed them. Some of the things that we ignore are things that we have noticed, but we've decided they're too painful or inconvenient, and so we put them out of our awareness. Expanding our awareness means that we find out about the things we've never noticed, but we also turn our attention to those things that we've noticed but we're ignoring, and so that requires a lot of courage. At the same time, noticing these things does not have to include dwelling on them, amplifying them, ruminating on them, and turning them into an opportunity for introspective masochism or paranoia about other people in the world. Again, to be aware of something is to simply notice it. It's a very neutral position. Instead of just saying a bunch of things about awareness, what I want to do is really take you on a tour through your own awareness. I think that will be much more useful. So I will say some things, but I also invite you to come along for the tour. Consider it that it's like eating a meal and not just reading the menu. Our first step on this tour is to become present in the immediate moment. So I'd invite you right now to just notice your world. Notice what's around you. Tune into your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? You hear my voice, obviously. What do you feel? How do you feel in your body? Just take a moment to tune into your senses. Be as alert and present as you can. Okay, this is going to be a brief stop here. What I wonder is if you noticed that you became aware that there were a lot of things that you weren't noticing. You made a choice of what to pay attention to, and maybe you had an intuition that there was a lot more going on in and around you than you could check in on in that brief moment. And that's true. And that's where what we're going to explore as we go forward. In recognition of that infinite number of things that we might be aware of, I want to start by offering a bit of a general map to notice where these things are. We could use this in service of self-awareness, but it's awareness of many, many things, including the self. First is the external world, through our senses. That's something we can become aware of. Through sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, everything. We've got that. Another thing that we can be aware of is our own psychology, our own internal thoughts, feelings, and mental state. That's an area we can turn our attention and become more aware. There's the social dimension of our experience, which means our relationship with other people. We can become aware of that both as a external awareness of our bodies, other people's bodies, and how they are in interaction, but it involves also the interiors, our own psychology, and our understanding of the other person through something that is sometimes called mentalization, which is being aware of thoughts and feelings on our own inside, reflecting on them, being aware of other people's interior thoughts and feelings, and reflecting on those, and reflecting on them in interaction. So that's a big area of awareness, is our social awareness. And then there's body, our own body, and we can be aware of our body through our senses. We can smell ourselves, we can see ourselves, we can look at ourselves in a mirror, but we also have sensations. So we can be aware of our body both externally and internally through the sensations that we experience in our body. You might take a moment to notice where your attention went in our first stop on this tour of basic presence in the immediate moment. Which 4 of these areas on the map did you tend to go to just notice where did your attention go? Okay, we can proceed now. There are several aspects of awareness that I want to talk about, and I want it to be implied, keep in mind that they apply to all 4 areas. Okay, so I'm not going to explore that in depth, it would take way too long, but just keep that in mind. I'll explore it a little bit. And for the future, go visit these things yourself. See if you can find them and take that adventure. I think what you'll find as you proceed is that you'll be left in a state of awe about how much you're still unaware of, like the rest of us, including me. We're going to start with a few very simple, straightforward aspects of awareness. First, I want to talk about is focal and peripheral, and we'll actually visit this in our experience. So I invite you to hold up your hand and look at it. Focus on it. Notice that while you're focusing on it, you notice things in your peripheral vision. So there's focal awareness and peripheral awareness. Now, if you keep looking in the same place and move your hand to the side, now your hand is in your peripheral vision. It's the same hand, but it's seen from the side. This again applies to all 4 areas. So this is a sensory experience, but it's true with our thoughts and feelings as well. There can be what we focus on, and then there's what's at the periphery. And it's not just 2 points, focal and periphery. There is a range in between where something comes more and more into focal, or more and more into periphery, or beyond periphery. That's an aspect of our awareness that we can pay attention to. Another simple, straightforward aspect of awareness I would call minimal and maximal awareness. Means being maximally aware or minimally aware. So again, hold up your hand, focus on it intently. Look at it, look at it, look at the details. Right? Now gaze at it. Let your eyes go soft, blurry. You still see it, but not as distinctly. Again, this is a visual or a sensory experience of maximal and minimal. But there are also thoughts and feelings and ideas that come in and out of strength in our awareness. They could even be not in the periphery, but they might be in the center, but we're just really not focusing very strongly on them. So that's another aspect of awareness. Hey, watch out for that pink elephant charging right at you. Okay. Obviously, that's not true. It's my way of pointing out the next thing on our stop, an experience of it, rather than just me talking about it. And that is voluntary and involuntary awareness. There are things that we choose to pay attention to, and there are the things that leap at us and demand our attention. And we give it before we have time to think about it. Some of those things may be as silly as an imaginary pink elephant that you can safely disregard. But some of those things may not be. Perhaps you have a sudden pain or suddenly notice a lump in your body, and you can ignore that and not give it your awareness. But that might not be wise, right? It might be something that needs to be attended to. So, voluntary and involuntary awareness. Not everything we're aware of is something we chose to be aware of. Okay, our next stop on the tour is something I like to call purposeful versus wandering or free-floating awareness. So I'd invite you right now to look around the space you're in and see if you can identify 2 or 3 of the most costly or expensive items in your space. And then look and see if you can identify 2 or 3 of the cheapest, least expensive items in your space. Now, just notice everything that's in the middle. What's in the mid-range? Okay, that's purposeful awareness. You're looking for something. Now, again, I just invite you to look out randomly into the space you're in. Just notice whatever your eyes fall upon. Let them follow no particular purpose except a curiosity about what you might see next. I'm seeing the light on the back of a pillow on the other side of the room. I'm seeing a mirror on the other side of the room. I'm seeing some plants. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? Of course, having purposeful awareness is important. We need to be able to look for things, identify things, categorize things, evaluate things. That's all important. But sometimes wandering or free-floating awareness will let us see things in a new way. Let us see things that we might otherwise have ignored or might always ignore. So it's good to have both forms, is what I'm saying. And for personal development, perhaps the most obvious is that purposeful awareness is what we need. I'm suggesting that wandering or free-floating awareness also has a place and can actually expand our awareness more, because we're noticing things we hadn't noticed, weren't aware of before, and we don't yet know how important they might be. Okay, let's move on. Right now, you're watching and listening to me. Do you remember why? What events in your external world triggered you to watch this video? what was going on inside you, what thoughts or feelings or motivations caused you to click on this link and hear what I had to say. What brought you here, in other words? I call this causal awareness. We're not just aware of things or thoughts or feelings or people as objects, static in time, but they are the result of causes. Everything is a result of causes that preceded it. And we can become more aware of that. We can be curious about it and not just see things, including our own experiences, as standalone things that just kind of popped into the universe out of nowhere. There were preceding causes, and we can be aware of that. I pair causal awareness with consequential awareness, right? So what if I asked you right now to find the hardest object nearby and use it to smash the device you're watching this video on? What if I asked you that? Would you do it? Hopefully not. And the reason is you have consequential awareness. You know that there's a consequence for your action. And if you destroy the object, the device you're watching me on, you'd lose it, you'd have to replace it, it would be expensive, it would be pointless. All right, that's clear enough. Now I invite you to think about negative thoughts, beliefs, and feelings and acting on them, either from personal experience or imagining the consequence. What's the consequence of acting on negative thoughts and feelings? Usually not good. Usually not good. We usually hurt ourselves and hurt other people. And I don't think we all just have to imagine this. I think we all know this because we've all done it. So it's just something to be aware of. Consequential awareness. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell so you can know about further videos that I make. Also, feel free to share it with anybody that you think would be interested or benefit by it. Thanks. The next aspect of awareness that I want to talk about is more complicated, maybe a little more difficult to grasp. I call it systemic awareness. And we'll explore that with a little thought experiment. Ask you to look at the device that you're using to watch this video and listen to me. What do you see in your senses? It has a shape, it has a color, it has a texture, it has a size. You see it. You're aware of it as an object. That's what you're aware of. To have systemic awareness means that beyond your sensory awareness, you also can know that it came into being because there were hardware and software developers that brought it to being. There were manufacturers who manufactured it, distributors who distributed it to retailers, retailers who made it available to you. Now that you have it, it connects you to systems of information and community. For instance, it allows you to hear what I have to say today. So your device, you can see it all by itself, or you can recognize in your awareness the vast systems that it's a part of. This is just a sensory object that you can see in a system of other objects and things in the world. But again, you can apply this to the interior dimension. A single thought or a single feeling that you may have is similarly embedded in systems. They're in systems of language, systems of culture, systems of upbringing, of beliefs, of memories of previous experiences. That every thought and feeling that we have isn't just a standalone thing that just popped into the universe, and it didn't just get here by a couple simple, immediate previous causes. It's part of systems. It's part of a vast system. So we can begin to reflect on that and bring that into our awareness. The next aspect is related to systemic awareness, but it's called process awareness. And here, the difference is that there is an emphasis on the underlying pattern of interaction. Systemic awareness notices that objects are in interaction. Process awareness looks at the process, and we can become aware that the same process can operate given very different objects or content. For instance, the process of preparing a meal may be very similar, but we could use different ingredients and wind up with a very different meal. The same could be said about building a house or starting a business. Very similar processes will be engaged, but we'll wind up with a different house or different business. We can also become aware of process in our interior world in terms of our thoughts and our feelings. They can follow patterns of interaction. One example of this is the process of inductive versus deductive reasoning. In deductive reasoning, you go from a general fact or observation to a specific example or a specific conclusion. For instance, follow this deductive reasoning. All birds hatch from eggs. My pet parrot is a bird. My pet parrot hatched from an egg. That seem reasonable? It's believed that deductive reasoning is true. You'll reach a solid conclusion if you follow deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning goes from the specific to the general, and it looks at some examples and then draws a conclusion that's more general. For instance, people have birds as pets. Birds hatch from eggs. Therefore, all pets hatch from eggs. Not true, right? Deductive and inductive reasoning don't depend on the thoughts, or the facts that are being presented. It's a process. It operates across all kinds of thoughts. You could ask yourself, beyond inductive and deductive reasoning, if there are thought processes that you engage in that tend to foster your growth and development, and are there others that get in the way, become obstacles, or actually push you back? Part of being aware, and particularly being self-aware, is to recognize our own thought process, our own emotional process, and see whether it's effective, see if it's working. We just have 2 more stops on this tour. The next one is an aspect of awareness I call temporal awareness. It's being aware of time, being aware of past, present, and future. It's a requirement for causal and consequential awareness. So we have to have some sense of time in order to consider causes and consequences. But here I want to emphasize something else about temporal awareness. And we'll again do a little experiential exercise. I want you to think of what you last had to eat. Remember what you last had to eat. What was it? How did it taste? Did you make it? Did you buy it? Where were you? Were you with somebody? Were you sharing a meal with somebody? How did that go? Did you enjoy yourself? Did you not enjoy yourself? Just take a moment to hold that memory. Okay, now, who do you expect to see next in your day? Is there a reason for the meeting? Who is it? Do you expect it to be a pleasant or an unpleasant encounter, exchange? Is there something that you will need to talk with this person about or do with this person? Do you like this person? Do you love this person? Do you have a problem with this person? Just hold the thought of what your future holds in terms of your next interaction with another human being. Okay, didn't have to be long. Now just come back to the present moment. You're listening to my voice, you're in the room where you are, you're in the immediate moment of now. So you've visited the past, you've visited the future, and you've come back to the present. And it's clear to you, because this was an exercise, that those were three distinct places to be. In our day-to-day life, I think we get confused. We don't realize when we're visiting the past and living in it. We don't realize when we're imagining a future. It all blends together, and we tend to have reactions. Our body reacts, our brain reacts to what it is we're imagining or remembering. Temporal awareness means to be aware that we're always in the present moment, and that some of what we're aware of in the present moment are memories, and some of what we're aware of in the present moment are imaginings about the future. And to just be clear about that. It's important because we can get confused and live in the famous words of Mark Twain, as I think I may have said in another video. I've lived through some horrible things in my life, or some terrible things, some of which actually happened. So yeah, to know the difference. Okay, we've come to the last stop on this tour for this video, and this is a difficult one. It's complicated. It's one that I think we all struggle with, and we're not even aware of it. But it's very important. It's very important, and it's the reason why I made this into a tour with direct experience, because we can get confused about what's actually real and what is a mental representation. We can think that if we have a word or a representation of a thing, that we're then aware of that thing, and we may be fooling ourselves. It may be all that we're aware of is the word, the symbol, not the thing itself. To explore this, I'm going to borrow from semiotics, and in semiotics there's three basic things to pay attention to. One is the signifier, which is the symbol, the word, whether written or spoken, but there are other symbols besides ordinary language. That's the signifier. The signified is the image that we have in our mind when we hear the signifier. If I say the word dog, you conjure the image or the understanding of a dog in your mind. The third one is the actual dog, is the referent. That's what it's called, the referent. So I can say dog, or I can say pink elephant, and you can have that image in your mind, but there's not a pink elephant in your room right now, and you may not have a dog with you in immediate sight. The famous French surrealistic painter René Magritte painted his famous "Ce n'est pas une pipe" painting, which is a painting of a pipe, and it said "Ce n'est pas une pipe," which in English means "this is not a pipe." This was confusing to a lot of people, and they were a little upset by it. But of course, a painting of a pipe is not a pipe. It's a painting of a pipe. And a word is not the thing. It's a word. A symbol is not the thing. It's a symbol. Although this may sound obvious when I say it, we are routinely, all of us, hoodwinked in a sense, to thinking that because we have knowledge in the form of symbolic representations that we know things, when we don't. We haven't actually made contact with them directly. And again, that's why I've decided to incorporate some of that into this video, so that What I'm offering you right now are signifiers, right? Words. And you're representing them in your mind. And that's a start. My invitation to you is to not stop there, to take everything I've said and see if you can find it in your own awareness, your own direct, immediate experience, and not think that collecting more ideas is going to necessarily be useful unless you expand your actual awareness and it informs your behavior in a real way. And that's, again, to get back to self-development, that's the point of this. It's not to have a bunch of ideas about awareness, it's about to actually expand our awareness so that we actually have the experience of a bigger world with more detail and more connection that we notice. Externally, internally, interpersonally, and in the experience of our body, to get back to the original map. That's the point. Okay, I hope you found value in this and that you take it to expand your awareness. If I've left you with a sense that there is a vast number of things I didn't talk about, a vast number of things to be aware of that you didn't have quite the inkling you did at the beginning, then my job's been done. I didn't mean to exhaust it. I meant to point in the direction of the vastness of the possibilities for awareness and to inspire you to take that journey. I will be doing another video on awareness, exploring another couple aspects to it that were just too much to add into this one. And I call that vertical and developmental awareness. So please come and join me for that. And look forward to seeing you there. Until then, thank you for coming, for sticking to the end, and hope to see you next time. So long. I will be writing a synopsis of this video that you can find as a PDF file, and I'll provide a link below. Sometimes it's useful to have little bullet points to remember things instead of having to listen to an entire video again or read a very long explanation. You've heard me say these things, so perhaps a very brief synopsis would be useful to refer to in the future. Okay, check it out. Thanks. Bye.